Hello, everybody. This show has been created to inspire you to take action.
All about celebrating and reframing what success looks like.
To be the best version of ourselves that we can be.
And we have incredible speakers for you tonight. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Future Females Show. I am Lauren Dallas. I am one of your hosts. I'm CEO of Future Females, and I am really here to facilitate a conversation that is all about selling and reframing what success looks like by sharing stories and, of course, really practical tips from women who are really leading the game in their industry, whether they are thought leaders, change makers, executives, or entrepreneurs. And today I am joined by Nicole Capper. Nicole, welcome and thank you so much.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you for having me.
So Nicole is a former Mrs. South Africa winner. She currently runs an NPO, which I'm excited to get stuck into. She also is an entrepreneur. She is running an exciting new business that is all about celebrating the personal brands of different women and so much more. Nicole, please, do you want to just take 2 minutes to introduce yourself and really, I guess, how you came to focus so much on personal branding, whether it's your own or supporting other women to step into that for themselves?
So my journey in personal branding was never a deliberate one. I sort of fell into it in the pursuit of who do I want to be as a person. And that involved some public pursuits, which gave me a public platform. As you said, it started with Mrs. South Africa. And along the way, I have since studied strategic communications, which included some personal branding elements. And I have become passionate about the subject because it really helps people find out who they are, who they should be, and how they can add value, most importantly, to other people's lives. You can't do that if you don't know who you are. So yes, the journey's been beautiful, and it's taken me through starting my own businesses. It's taken me onto a Future Females physical stage, which I'll never forget. That was a beautiful opportunity also to meet incredible people, and that opened up a lot of doors for me. It was a great networking opportunity. And I'm excited for where the future will go and excited to be back here with you.
Yes. Oh my gosh, me too. I was looking at your personal brand website actually before we came on, and I was like, I recognize that t-shirt. That photo is from when you spoke at Future Females. So it was very exciting to see the full circle. Nicole, something I've always really admired about you is you do many different things, whether it is being Mrs. South Africa or going on Survivor or speaking on stage at Future Females. And throughout, you have this golden thread of consistency around your personal brand. So how have you built to that point? And how did you kind of design that consistency and decide which were the right opportunities for you to take it forwards?
That's such a great question, because sometimes people can take you as a busy person and assume that you lack direction. And busyness and having a full, rich, diverse life is actually a really good thing. And we have a lot more capacity especially as women, dare I say, we have a lot more capacity than we would ever give ourselves credit for. And that capacity is enhanced when we're working in our flow. And I guess that I've realized over time that the working in your flow and your niche and your passion is how you discover who you are. And if you're always bringing it back to why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you busy? Then it's easy. Then it makes sense. Then you can make decisions easier as well. If you know your why and you know who you are, your brand pillars, 2 or 3 things about you that are consistent no matter what. If you know those things, then it's a yes or no question becomes simple. An event attendance, simple. Spending time with people, simple, because you're always investing in the right place and learning from the right place. So for me, I know it's really oversimplified, but if you read that book, Simon Sinek, it starts with why. He takes it back to, and you can flip through it, really get the abridged version. It's why are you doing what you're doing? And then what are your 3 pillars? Who are you? And for me, it's adventure, health, and family. And if it doesn't fit in any of one of those 3 things, then it doesn't make sense for me.
I absolutely love that. I use a similar premise, which is like, what are your 3 things? And I think something that women often struggle with is, I'm way more than 3 things. I'm a multi-dimensional person. And I'm curious on your response to this, but mine is, there's a personal brand and then there's you as a person. And your personal brand, 3 things, doesn't have to be everything. Like personally, I love Tantra, but at the moment that doesn't necessarily fit into my personal brand. Maybe one day, but I'm curious, how do you tackle that? Because I'm sure you're many, many more than your 3 things.
That's such a good point, because I battle with this idea of labels and boxes. So I'm formally trained and still registered as a South African pharmacist. That was the hat that I was given and the career path I was encouraged to follow. And I don't regret it. I absolutely love it, but it's not my key passion. Yes, health is one of my 3 pillars, but being a pharmacist did not define me. So I had to sit back and say, yes, it's part of who I am, but it's not my box. And I think for us, especially as women, we feel like we get put into this box or this label and we have to own that, and that's who we are. And then if we go and start wanting to have these ideas of, oh, I'd love to find out about Tantra, but then there's this whole fear that, no, but that's not me. Yes, it is you. You are everything. You're a multifaceted being. You should fearlessly touch on all areas of the experience of life, right? To discover further areas of who you are, who you can be. And also knowing your 3 brand pillars doesn't mean you can't change and evolve those over time.
Absolutely. I think that's what really excites me about the conversation that we're having, because your personal brand, it can never go out of fashion. Like a business brand potentially can. A product can get redundant, sure, and it can be hard to pivot and maintain trust, but people evolve, and that's part of the beauty of being like the business of you, which is, what you do so well. So I think tying into this, what are some of the common misconceptions that you see that people hold about personal branding?
Some of the misconceptions, actually the greatest misconception with personal branding, is that it is egotistical and it gives you by default a lot of vanity, and it's not a healthy thing to do. I've actually taught my kids, and especially my daughter growing up, to be more self-aware and to look in the mirror more often, to love themselves, know their faces, their smiles, their own laughs, to hear their voices played back on my videos, my camera roll. Because when we were little, I don't know if you remember, it was always, don't look at yourself in the mirror too much. Don't think about yourself, think about others. And although there's healthy messaging of adding value to others' lives and, caring more about others than you do about yourself, all of that's healthy messaging. The unhealthy, toxic part of that is that we start to deny ourselves the very real foundation of building who you are, is knowing your worth, knowing yourself, and then building upon that. So the biggest misconception is, even for some of my friends who are professional, career-driven doctors, attorneys, teachers, not necessarily an entrepreneur, certainly not an influencer. Some of them don't even have social media profiles. And they'll say to me, oh, no, I'm not a personal brand, or I don't need to promote myself. That is the biggest misconception. If you're a doctor, you need to promote yourself. You need people to be recommending you, and that starts from your confidence within. If you're a teacher, again, you have a personal brand that people will know you in every PTA, every teacher's meeting. They will say, oh, that's Mrs. So-and-so. And you by default have a reputation. Even if you're just a mom blogger, you have a certain reputation and an identity that you need to, and a messaging that you need to get across. And sometimes it's not a messaging that you want to always put on a caption and an Instagram page. It's also a subtle messaging of knowing yourself really well, and the personal branding exercise helps you do that. Knowing yourself so well that you actually get to a point that people can just walk past you, smile at you, have a 30-second conversation with you, and they know who that brand is. It's how you dress, it's how you speak, it's an essence of who you are, and everybody has that. So I think that's a very big misconception. And perhaps a big misconception is that you need to be an influencer if you have a personal brand, and you need to be very active on social media. Again, I think that ties into the first one, and it's not the truth. And another one is that personal branding is one-dimensional, and then you become like a label, and you'll look like a certain aesthetic feed, and you lose a lot of who you are. I think that's also really, really based in a lot of untruths. So to be able to correct that and say, you can be who you want to be, you can be multifaceted, and you can have a totally unique approach as seasons come and go. So one of my favorite influencers and poets and authors is Morgan Harper Nicoles, MHN. You can go and look her up online. She is just incredible. She's actually probably written a lot of the stuff you may already have read, or quotes you may even pass in a corridor without even knowing. So Morgan Harper Nicoles started speaking more about her journey with autism and growing up with autism, and she found she was losing a lot of followers. And she started sharing her loss of followers on her stories to document the journey and tell people how it felt, because it felt like a very public rejection of her newfound courage to speak out. And she liberated a whole lot of other people. In fact, that's one of my favorite Morgan Harper Nicoles quotes, is you do these brave things to liberate courage in other people to do the same. And the moral of the story is you don't lose followers. You just exchange followers for one season of your life, for followers in a new season of your life. And it's a cleanse. It's really, really healthy. You don't have to always be growing. You need to leave some people behind.
I also think we shouldn't gamify our personal brand strategy by what do people like, what don't they, and let me do more of what they like. That is, for me, like a very toxic way to evolve into your most truest self, because it's not looking in at all. It's entirely looking out.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to use that and I will credit you. We should not gamify our personal brands. Wow, there's so much truth in that. And sadly, I think, and I'm going to speak very openly about platforms, which I probably shouldn't do. Instagram by default is an aesthetic platform, and it's been designed to be aspirational, and in its nature can cause a lot of competition, self-doubt, negative emotions. So people are more inclined to put up a facade and then gamify their platforms to be able to reach objectives, whether it's for their own egos or whether it's to earn money as influencers or public figures. But the platforms are changing and times are evolving now, where your personal brand needs to be based on authenticity. I am so excited about influencer marketing because it's becoming more competitive and more real with every single day, namely the platform TikTok. TikTok exists because it is real, raw, in your face. This is who I am. Get ready with me. Come chat with me. Come live in my space. I mean, yes, there's good and bad to every platform, but I love the fact that it's not an entire curated music video of your life. It's actually just a cell phone recorded selfie video of you laughing at yourself. And that messaging needs to be propagated on social media and personal branding.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicole, I mean, hearing you speak, it's clear you know exactly who you are, and following you for a long time, as I obviously have, that is how you show up. But I think a lot of people do struggle with that first step of like, actually, who am I? So how did you discover that? Was there a practice that really nailed it for you?
That's a brilliant, brilliant point, because I was privileged to have catastrophe. I had a diagnosis of with cystic fibrosis. I had to hold my baby girl in an ICU ward, have a doctor look at me with tears in his eyes and tell me that her future was uncertain. And it shook me to my core that I decided, okay, I need to know who I am. I need to become myself, and I need to be a really great example for my daughter. I need to show her that she can be courageous, because I'm going to expect courage from her. And I looked at myself in a little bathroom mirror in that ICU and I said, am I living my best truth? Am I being brave? And I mean, I cried. I said, no, I'm not. I'm hiding. I'm working in a warehouse. I hate my job. I should be somebody of impact. And I started a journey with a lot of courage because of the circumstance I faced, and because of the challenges my daughter was facing. But I wish that people could have that without a catastrophe. And if you really want it bad enough, sit down either by yourself or with a good trusted friend and figure out why and work backwards. Say, what am I doing with every day? Where do I spend my time? What do I love doing? The what? Then you bring it back and say, how do I do that? is it mostly with my family? Is it in my career? Is it, the sports or the community centers I spend? That's the how. And then you can sort of start drawing the parallels, write out some key words that you love that resonate with you on a piece of paper, like a big spider diagram. Write out these words. At the end of it, you start to get this matrix-like picture of who you think you are. And you'll see there's that core central thread. This is who I am. And it doesn't always have to be crystal clear from the beginning, but doing a deliberate exercise. I mean, who taught us that at school? And why not? Like, that's the questions we should be leaving school with, is I don't need to know complex trigonometry, as I need to know myself. And I'm really grateful I did that, but it's a very practical exercise anybody can do.
And I mean, Nicole, now, just when we were catching up before this interview, understanding your new role that you've taken on at Humanz, I guess this gives you the potential to impact people in this way at scale. Do you want to speak a little bit about how that came around for you?
You're an amazing human being. I love chatting with you. We need to have coffee and catch up soon. Like, I think the way that you just everything, it's like you see me, and we've only just chatted for a few minutes. Yes, I often get asked the question, why did I move away from running my own agency to being invited to work with Humanz? And the opportunity there was one of scale. Exactly that word, is to take what you've learned, what you've done, and scale it in a way that it adds value on a much larger level. And my hope is that we can open up the industry to a whole new generation of young, enthusiastic entrepreneurs who are real and authentic and also talented. They work hard. They budget and save for their ring light. They figure out who they are and what their brand stands for. They make skits in their living rooms, and they refine them and work on them until they get it right. And then they put themselves out there on social media and post them all the time. And there are such exceptionally talented people out there that started with nothing, had nothing, didn't have the luxury of an education, fancy tertiary education, but can still go and create their own business as a creator. And the creator economy it's quadrupled in size in the last 18 months globally. The creator economy being money invested in new budding creatives on social media. So yes, they're there, and there's big brands out there as well who want to spread their messaging through creators. So why not connect the two?
Absolutely. So I want to ask a question that maybe it's not hard, but I think that there is a mindset that it's hard to make money as an influencer, and that influencers are underpaid and devalued and given product in exchange for work as opposed to revenue. What is your perspective on that for someone who might be watching this thinking, can I succeed in this creator economy?
Do you really want the answer?
Yes.
The answer is yes. Everything you said is true. Every little bit of it, and probably more. It's the same as when you enter Mrs. South Africa. It's probably harder than you ever anticipated it to be. It's the same as when you go and do an MBA. It's so hard to the point that they often call it the home breaker or the divorce course. That is how hard it is. And I would hesitate to say the same about being an influencer, because the assumption is also true that anybody can be one, and it's not that hard. And, just film yourself, put yourself online, and you can be famous too. It's not about fame. The beauty of true, talented, and good earning creators are that they do it for the passion. They're either passionate about making food and recipes and sharing the recipes online, or they're passionately raising a family, and they want to share their tips and tricks with their world, they want to share their tips and tricks with their followers about parenting. It's about owning a niche and a skill in real life, not just social media world. Some people are talented interior decorators and designers. Some just have an amazing eye for art, and they're able to showcase and curate art and fashion on their feed, but they are good at something. And you don't have to be good to start. You just have to work really hard to get good. I mean, what was I going to be good at? I was a very average pharmacist and, a mom. I didn't have any special skills. I can't sing, I can't dance, and I definitely couldn't stand on stage, deliver a speech, or be a TV presenter. All of those things took me years and years of practice and absolute commitment to get good at. And it's the same for being an influencer. And if you really apply yourself, you can. And that's when you start making really great money and getting really great jobs.
I love that you just tell it like it is. And I think one of the important takeaways for me from what you just said is it has to be about the passion. It's never about the platform. Instagram will come and go, TikTok will, your audiences will. People have had their accounts hacked and lost their audiences, but what keeps them going is, as you said, that true passion to just share and leave that legacy of content in the world. So it's a really nice perspective on it. So Nicole, I know you also run an NPO called Uprising NPO, something that personally I find very inspirational. And from what I can see, really ties into your adventure and your family pillars. But just share with us what that NPO does and how it kind of evolved from what you were doing and are doing.
I started my journey as Mrs. South Africa with a crown on my head, 90 seconds of elation and glitter falling from the sky, and then the crushing sense of reality that what am I going to do with this to actually make it count? You know, you now have a responsibility to everybody who rooted for you, who backed you, supported you, and, you know, for the general South African public and married women out there to say, okay, now what? And I decided to do something fun, something that tied in with my sense of adventure, something that challenged me as well. I think I have an addiction to challenging myself, good or bad. I don't know if that's a good thing. And I sat down with a friend shortly after being crowned and I said, okay, I need to go on an adventure and I don't know what it is. Maybe the Drakensberg. And she said to me, okay, I have a friend who's going to Everest Base Camp in 3 weeks. Would you like to go with? Naively, I just said, yes, why not? And it's probably one of the best yes, why nots I've ever made. One of my good friends said to me, you say yes, and then you figure it out later. And again, is it aligned with your brand pillars? If it is, then yes. Naively so, because I wasn't quite ready for it physically. Yes, I made it. I did make it to base camp, but on the way down, I had altitude sickness and actually had to be airlifted out. It was a very scary experience, but it was also an experience that left me in love with the mountains and for the transformation that the difficult, harsh environment of a mountain creates. Sometimes it's necessary to remove yourself from your busy corporate life, from your chaotic family world, and immerse yourself in peace, nature, thought, no cell phone reception, and hardship, pain, out of breath. Can I do this? And a lot of self-doubt, walking uphill, completely out of breath, thinking, what am I doing? I'm out of my mind. And at the end of it, you have a physical picture in your mind of a point up there that you got to walk up to, walk back down, turn around and say, I did that. I just did that. I mean, it's a gift because you get to come back down transformed in your perspective of capacity. And a lot of the people that we've brought back down have gone on to change their careers, move into different lines of work. Some people have left unhappy marriages. Some people have committed to healthy relationships. It's the decisions that you make because you put yourself in a position that you burst your little bubble and you can see what's possible. And of course, down to the root cause of why is it's a great way to embrace my sense of adventure with other people whilst raising funds for Rare Diseases South Africa. We raise funds on every trek that we go on, and the proceeds go to Rare Diseases, and they advocate for people like my daughter, but even those that have no advocacy groups in South Africa, no drugs in South Africa. Some of the children have no hope of reaching the age of 5. And if we can make a small difference in their lives by allowing them access to life-saving treatment or even just support, that's worthwhile named.
I mean, it's such a beautiful story, as well as your point on the experience transformation. I'm not sure if it's still fine to quote Russell, but it's reminding me of something he said. And he said that you've got to grow the grass before you can plant the seed. And so what I see from the outside of your journey is that your personal brand, it was never about the crown. It was about just reaching that point where you could sow the seed at scale and have the largest possible, which is, if I look at the many things you're doing that we spoke about at the start, that for me is also one of the golden threads.
Absolutely. And such a profound thing for you to say, it was never about the crown. I think when you step into a public limelight of any kind, even if it's putting yourself forward in a business environment, studying a new course, putting yourself out in any way, never mind a crown, people immediately try to pull you down or hammer that nail in and make you fit back in and say, you're doing it for the fame, you're doing it for the glory. And I really would challenge people to become shameless in their pursuit of what sets their soul on fire. And maybe that's one of the best words to describe me, is shameless, because I am the person who will shamelessly walk up to somebody else at a meeting, at an event, to introduce myself because I want to meet somebody, even though maybe I shouldn't. I will shamelessly put my hand up to volunteer for something that maybe I'm not qualified for yet, and I feel like I have imposter syndrome for as I do. And I am the person who will shamelessly post a video that I don't know if it's the right video to post. I'm so scared and I'm so nervous. And then at the end of the day, I have to laugh at myself because it was terrible. And it got very bad engagement, and that's also okay. And we learn in the process. I'm trying to give you some examples, but being shameless is the only way you step outside of your comfort zone. And the crown is just something at the end of the day that says, okay, well, we've been shameless for long enough.
I absolutely love it. And I love that word shameless as well, because how dare anyone else put the shame on you? And as you were saying before, we're doing it for the passion. And so if it's something that lights you up, you have to go for it shamelessly. We've only got this one wildlife to live. So Nicole, we're about to wrap up. I think I'd just love to ask you, there are probably people watching this who are wanting to start a personal brand, are in the process of self-discovery, maybe do have that passion. What advice would you leave with them? Or what's been the best advice you've received on your own journey?
Never say what you think they want to hear. Be who you want to be, and then learn the skills necessary to be able to achieve that, and become an eternal student of the discipline you want to perfect. We make excuses. I'm going to be really harsh here. I make excuses all the time for the things that I don't have in life, the relationships that aren't going well, anything that's not happening in my life. I will make an excuse that it's somebody else's fault or somebody didn't give me something. No, anything you want within reason is within your grasp if you're prepared to work hard enough for it and learn new skills. And these days, with the age of the internet, everything is out there. You can self-teach yourself how to be an influencer. You can follow accounts on social media for tutorials on Reels and TikTok hacks and editing hacks. You can literally follow the hashtags. And maybe just one last very direct social media tip. This is probably one of my favorite. I'm very grateful for the person who gave it to me. Become a contributor, not a consumer. The more time we spend online scrolling and being entertained, the less time we have. That time is stolen. If you do want to be a creator, be a personal brand and grow your skills in those areas, you should be spending that time following accounts and people that can help you get there. Whether it's tips and hacks and tutorials or aspirational people you would like to become like as a personal brand, along those three pillars. Feed your soul, but try and limit how much you feed compared to what you contribute, because you need to also feed your soul in the real world out here as a real human being, not just a one-dimensional personal brand.
I love that. I mean, all of that is very solid advice, but the contributor versus consumer really resonates with me, because you often also don't get to choose what you're consuming on social media. You can't choose if it's something toxic that's going to knock you off your entire day, or something uplifting. Whereas in the real world, all of it is your choice and life by your design. So I absolutely love that. Thank you. And thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Oh my gosh, what an incredible interview, Nicole. It's been so long since we connected and so much has happened, and I'm just really grateful. Thank you for joining, for sharing your story, your different paths as well, and your learnings along the way with everyone who's tuned in from Future Females. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me once again. I am very honored to be here. I'm very honored to be chatting with you. You've created not just a platform, but a legacy, and are impacting and changing so many lives. So just any opportunity I have to be associated with you and what you're doing, I will grab it with both hands. And I cannot wait to see the success that lies in wait in the future.
Oh, thank you so much, Nicole. I really appreciate that. And to everyone from Future Females who has tuned in, I hope you've enjoyed this like I have. I hope you have taken away some nuggets to give you both the confidence and the direction to take even just one step forwards when it comes to your personal brand, and the capacity that that has as a vehicle for you to create the change you want to in the world. So this has been the Future Female Show, and I hope you'll tune in for the next episode. Thank you, Nicole.